your exploratory committee. You said that you would need to run, you'd like to raise $10 million to have a viable campaign. How is your fundraising going? Have you reached that goal?
Well, with matching funds, we're moving in on $2 million, but the Federal Election Commission still doesn't have a quorum. But we hope to pick up. More and more people now are contributing. We've gotten some major contributions from former Hillary Clinton supporters who are turned off the process. And more and more people are coming in at lower denominations, $10, $20, $50, $100 from around the country. And we're looking for fundraisers. We're looking for people who help us with media outreach. Looking for computer experts. We want 15, 16-year-olds to help us on YouTube with our effort to get the 16-year-old vote, which will help mature politically our teenagers who are often too wedded to video screens. We're trying to propose dramatic innovations like votepact.org is proposing, votepact.org, to get over this problem where disenchanted Democrats vote for the Democrats because they can't abide the Republicans, and disenchanted Republicans vote for the Republicans because they can't abide the Democrats. And what PAC does is it gives people, for example, a disenchanted Republican and a disenchanted Democrat get together and they say, let's vote for the Nader-Gonzalez ticket. And that way, a third party has a chance. Because we all know that if we don't break up the two-party elected dictatorship, the duopoly, with instant runoff voting or public financing or ballot access reform or binding none of the above, all of these can only be done through legislation by the two parties who don't want to change the system. So we've got to take it into our own hands.
I wanted to play for you two clips, one of Barack Obama and one of McCain. This is Barack Obama speaking about Iran.
We will also use all elements of American power to pressure Iran. I will do everything in my power to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon. Everything in my power to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon. Everything.
On the campaign trail, John McCain accused Obama of being naive on Iran.
My friends, they are developing nuclear weapons. Also, what is totally unsatisfactory is that the Iranians are manufacturing and shipping into Iraq the most lethal explosive devices that are killing young Americans. That's not acceptable. And Senator Obama wants to sit down without any precondition across the table and negotiate with this individual. My friends, that's not right, and that's naive. And that shows a lack of experience and a lack of judgment.
McCain's position and then your assessment of Obama.
Well, it recalls Michael Abramowitz in the Washington Post in March and New York Times reporters a few weeks later saying that if Obama or Clinton were elected president, the foreign and military policy would not be much different than the foreign and military policy of George Bush in his second term. And that illustrates that. The military-industrial complex and the politicians like Obama and McCain who support it, $700 billion, over half of the federal government's operating expenditure now is the military budget, are desperately looking for enemies, desperately exaggerating enemies. Iran has not invaded anybody in 250 years. Yet it's obviously frightened. It's surrounded by the U.S. military, west, south, east. It's been labeled axis of evil by Bush, who invaded Iraq after he labeled them axis of evil. We have special forces, according to Cy Hirsch, that go in and out of Iran. What are they going to do? They talk very belligerently nationally, but they're really scared. I mean, we supported Saddam Hussein logistically and with materiel in invading Iran, which took 500,000 Iranian lives. They remember the shooting down of their civilian airliner.
Well, let me ask you something, Ralph Nader. Who do you think would be more likely to bomb Iran, to attack Iran, or have a surrogate do it, John McCain or Barack Obama?
I don't know. I would like to say that McCain would be more likely. Bush is more likely before he leaves office. The point is that we are exaggerating that threat instead of using diplomacy, number one. Number two, Iran does not have nuclear weapons. They're nowhere near nuclear weapons, according to intelligence estimates. Number three, Israel has 250 nuclear weapons. Does Iran really want to commit suicide? And number four, two major national security experts in Israel have been reported as saying Iran is not a problem. So why are we beating the drums, and why is Obama falling for this kind of trap? And that's, you know, Matt Gonzalez, my running mate, wrote a 3,000-word evaluation of Obama, basically saying, count me out, meaning him, from supporting Obama. It's on our website, votenader.org. But all this, Amy, reflects the non-engagement of the American people. What's left for the American people to decide? They have to take the reins of their government. They have to become more engaged in this campaign. They have to demand that these candidates come to their cities and towns and listen to them and answer their questions, instead of these slick journeys that these campaigns involve with their advanced people and their slogans through one town and state after the other.
Let me ask you about Matt Rothschild, the editor of the Progressives piece that he wrote that's called Don't Worry About Nader. He said hardly any of the tiny few who may vote for Nader would otherwise go to the Democrats in the fall anyway. They'd vote for Cynthia McKinney or some other third-party candidate, or they would write someone in, or they wouldn't vote for anyone for president. Still, Nader serves as a reminder the Democrats don't automatically own the votes of those who disagree with the Republican agenda, and that Barack Obama is not as progressive as many of his supporters would hope. That was Matt Rothschild, who was your co-treasurer, supported you in 2000 in your bid against Al Gore.
And worked in our office as a newly minted graduate from Harvard. I think that's ungracious of him. I think you should look at our website and see what the polls are showing. The most recent Associated Press poll has Nader Gonzalez at 6% without any national coverage against McCain and Obama. But I think his dilemma is what votepack.org is trying to resolve. I think he supports our agenda, but he goes for the least worst. And he's very critical of the Democrats, but obviously he dislikes the Republicans more. This is a trap that millions of liberals and progressives have fallen into. That is, by going for the least worst, namely the Democratic nominee, they don't make any demands on the Democratic nominee because they're so freaked out the possibility the Republican may win. Therefore, they're not pulling Obama in the area of peace and justice and a carbon tax.
Well, let me ask you something. Are you, Ralph Nader, freaked out at the possibility that a Republican would win?
Oh, yes, I am. And my critique of John McCain, as it was of George W. Bush, will be far more detailed and more excoriating and more grounded than the Democrats are willing to advance themselves. And so I said to Kerry, look at the critique that I'm making of Bush in 2004, and he didn't look very hard. He blurred his positions with Gore, with rather Bush, and therefore lost more votes than he should have, because he didn't have a bright line on things like anti-corporate welfare, a crackdown on corporate crime against pensions and workers, etc., strong consumer protection, a carbon tax, etc. I mean, here's an example. Gore just endorsed Obama. Gore is vigorously for a carbon tax against this cap-and-trade manipulation. Is he going to pull Obama toward a carbon tax, or is he going to say, oh, Obama is not as bad as McCain, we got to support Obama critically? The corporations are pulling Obama every day, 24/7 in their direction. If all these liberal groups with all their single issues are not pulling in the other direction, where do you think the Democratic Party and the nominee is going to go? Even if they're elected, they won't have any mandate. And we have to become very rigorous here, and I hope Matt Rothschild writes another editorial that reflects his intellect rather than his desperation.
Ralph Nader, you said in 2000 it doesn't really matter whether Gore or Bush is president. Do you feel that way today?
I didn't say that. I said the similarities between Bush and Gore tower over the dwindling real differences that they're willing to argue over. And, of course, my focus is not on some of the single issues. Obviously, Gore is better on Social Security, better on Medicare, better on gay, lesbian rights. Obviously, in those areas, the Democrats have a much clearer position, better position than the corporate Republicans. But in the gross area of corporate power and domination of every agency and department in our government, from the Department of Defense to the Department of Labor, the Democrats are moving in the direction of the Republicans. It's quite clear in terms of their voting record. There are exceptions like Henry Waxman and Ted Kennedy, Ed Markey, but for the most part, these parties have moved very heavily into the grip, the iron grip of corporate power, corporate money, corporate ultimatums on globalization, for example, and above all, the distortion of the federal budget in the direction of corporate contracts, subsidies, handouts, giveaways, and the swelling of this enormous, corrupt, wasteful